How do your products use or challenge conventions, and how do they represent social groups or issues? The project I made, Bladeless, used many conventions of horror. It had a sound that created a sense of tension and rising fear, along with uncomfortable angles of the camera to create unease in the viewers. The original plan was also to go with the convention of dark lighting, but filming outdoors proved this to be a very difficult task and had to be scrapped. Another convention I tried to follow is where the protagonist is trapped or lost while being pursued by an unknown or dangerous entity. While there are shots from the entity's perspective and shots from the protagonist looking for the entity after curating it, the danger is never seen or named in order to make the danger seem greater. The victims that are seen in the beginning are both part of a vulnerable group. The first victim is a young teen, while the second is a slightly older but immature teen. Teens are stereotypically more irresponsible and reckless, which is seen in the second victim wandering as far as into the woods all by herself. The skates and sporty casual clothing showed how she was ill-prepared to get herself out of danger and was just looking to have some fun roller skating, but got distracted and began exploring. The first victim's mistake was not as in-depth, and she is only seen twice, sitting in the shade, reading, and lying dead behind a bush. Question 2. How do your products engage with the audience, and how would they be distributed as real media product? The video engages with the audience using sounds like heartbeats and breathing, which makes the viewers feel more connected to the scenes. The main protagonist's pink and white clothing sets her apart from the green and orange forest, with the similarities between her and nature being very short. This makes the audience aware that she is out of place and worry over her ability to navigate her way out of once she has already gotten there. While the camera is acting as the entity's view, the protagonist looks towards the entity and thus the audience 3 times before finding a way to leave to the entity's right. This creates tension as both she and the audience knows that whatever the entity is, it is creepily still, with only slight swaying movement and audible breathing. Finally, there is one last person in the video who comes across the lost hat of the protagonist, who leaves the audience wondering if their significance later in the film. This person is to be the overconfident detective type, who puts themselves in danger in search of the truth, which either leads to their death or a reveal of the entity. If I were to show my film, I would focus on film festivals and small showings, as the concept is pretty simple and would not do so well on a wide release. However, as it is my first film, it would be smart to show my skills to people who may want to work with me since my current crew is very small. Furthermore, film festivals may have monetary prizes, which would help fund a more creative project. If I were to start a new project, I would upload playlists to a platform such as YouTube in order to get more of a following for the next film. Question 3. How did your production skills develop throughout this project? My skills developed greatly through the making of this video. When I started, I only had basic knowledge of camera work and makeup, and barely knew how to edit. Due to limited resources, my knowledge of lighting and special effects is just book level. However, I do know more than when I started from my research to try and improve my scenes. While I wanted for the forest shots to be done at night, the lighting was too dim and it was impossible to see anything. To try to work around this, I tried to edit shots to be darker in post. This instead made the shots too dreary, rather than eerie. My small helping crew, which was my sister, was not always available, which meant I had to use my surroundings to help me with my camera. The forest scene where the protagonist is visible, I had to use a small tree to hold up the camera. This gave the shot the feeling that the view was from something trying to stay still, as the tree swayed very slightly in the wind. In the scene where the protagonist is dragged out of view, I had no one who was available to help drag me. This meant I had to hold my upper body still while using my legs to drag myself off screen. There were many takes where I had blinked or moved my shoulders, but after a dozen tries, I had finally gotten it right. My prop making skills also improved, as the fake leg took me a long time to get the right shape. The leg had paint for fake blood, which luckily was a good match since I only had the one. The makeup for my face was a mix of different lipsticks to try and match the paint's color to keep the blood coloring consistent. While I wasn't perfect, it was a much better result than the first try I did at the beginning of the project. My camera work also improved from before making this project. While filming myself moving was not the smoothest, I did learn how to get around the lack of a tripod using various angles and nearby objects while making it all look and feel intentional. The video used a lot of odd angles and camera heights to transition from feeling like a nice day to a creepy and dangerous situation. Question 4. How did you integrate technologies into this project? The most important technological device that I utilized during my project was my phone camera. The camera was the source of all of my footage, and without it, I wouldn't have been able to do anything. It is a light camera that allowed me to film while moving and have more diverse camera placement, such as in a tree. Extending from that, I had edited on my phone as well. The editing needed a lot of cutting and trimming shots, and adding in different effects. Most of the sounds came from the app, excluding the birds from the first shot, the sound of stepping on leaves, and my 2 vocals. Without the ability to edit, the shots would have been too long and awkward, and there would have been no blinking effect when the camera takes on the view of the characters. Finally, I had to post the video to YouTube and use Blogger to submit the project, both of which are technological in nature. This part is less interactive, but as the majority of the work was already done at this point. Even so, if you run a race, you have to cross the finish line in order to complete the race. So even the small ending isn't important in the grand scheme.